The Sirens, Scylla, and Charybdis. Odysseus and his men return to Circe's island, where Circe warns him of the perils that await for him, or dangers. The following passage is told by Odysseus, still speaking at Alcinous's court, but he is quoting Circe, so he's telling us what Circe told him. Listen with care to this now, and a god will arm your mind. Square in your ship's paths are sirens, crying beauty to bewitch men coasting by. Woe to the innocent who hears that sound. And innocent means people who don't know to be aware of the sirens. So they're innocent because they don't know. He will not see his lady nor his children in joy crowding about him home from sea. The sirens will sing his mind away on their sweet meadow lulling. There are bones of dead men rotting in a pile beside them, and flayed skins shrivel around the spot. Remember, flayed skins are skins that are detached from the body. Steer wide, keep well to seaward, plug your oarsmen's ears with beeswax kneaded soft. None of the rest should hear that song. But if you wish to listen, let the men tie you in the lugger, hand and foot back to the mast, lashed to the mast, so you may hear those harpies or sirens' thrilling voices. Shout as you will, beg to be untied, your crew must only twist more line around you and keep their stroke up till the singers fade. So what she's telling Odysseus' men to do is to tie him on the big pole that the sail is usually hoisted up on. And that way he could be the only human to hear their song without being hypnotized. The next peril or danger lies between two headlands. Circe continues her warning. That is the den of Scylla, where she yaps abominably, meaning really unpleasantly. A newborn whelp's or puppy's cry, though she is huge and monstrous. God or man, no one could look on her in joy. Her legs, and there are 12, are like great tentacles, and tentacles are basically like octopuses. Unjointed, and upon her serpent necks are borne 6 heads like nightmares of ferocity, with triple serried, meaning crowding together, densely packed, rows of fangs and deep gullets or throats of black death. Now, triple serried is kind of like a shark. A shark has 3 lines of teeth, so it's similar to that. So if you think about it, she's describing a lot of different scary beings in the ocean. An octopus, a shark, a snake, kind of all combined into one monster. Half her length she sways. Her head's in the outside, her hoard cleft, hunting the ground, that promontory or highland that juts out into a body of water, for dolphins, dogfish, or what bigger game, thundering Amphitrite, feeds in thousands. And no ship's company can claim to have passed her without loss and grief. She takes from every ship 1 man for every gullet. So she has 6 heads, so when a ship of sailors pass by, basically she strikes and she eats 1 man for every head. So every ship would lose 6 men. The opposite point seems more of a tongue of land you touch with a good bow shot. It's basically saying, so close to Scylla is another monster that you could hit with your bow. It's that close. At the Narrows, a great wild fig, a shaggy mass of leaves, grows on it, and Charybdis lurks below to swallow down the dark sea tide. 3 times from dawn to dusk, she spews it up and sucks it down again 3 times, a whirling maelstrom or large violent whirlpool. If you come upon her then, the god who makes earth tremble cannot save you. No, hug the cliff of Scylla. Take your ship through on a racing stroke. Better to mourn 6 men than lose them all, and the ship too. So she basically, question 3, asks is it better to lose 6 men than the whole ship. So Circe is advising her, or Odysseus, to basically stay closer to Scylla and lose 6 men than risk the whole ship going down in the whirlpool. And there's a saying, going back to question 2, you're stuck between Scylla and Charybdis. And what that means, both stink, right? So it's basically like you have to make a choice between 2 bad things. So it's the lesser evil. Circe continues, "Then you will coast Thrinacia, the island where Helios's cattle graze, fine herds and flocks of goodly sheep. The herds and flocks are 7, with 50 beasts in each. No lambs are dropped or calves, and these fat cattle never die. Now, give those kine a wide berth. Stay away from these animals. Keep your thoughts intent upon your course for home, and hard seafaring brings you all to Ithaca. But if you raid the beeves, if you eat these animals, I see destruction for ship and crew." Now, someone else also warned Odysseus to stay away from those cattle. Can you remember who it was? Tiresias was the one who said, when Odysseus went to the land of the dead, he said, "Stay away from those cattle and you'll survive." The Ithacans set off. Odysseus does not tell his men of Circe's last prophecy, that he will be the only survivor of their long journey. Still speaking to Alcinous to a court, Odysseus continues his tale. "The crew being now silent before me, I address them, sore at heart. Dear friends, more than one man or 2 should know those things Circe foresaw for us and shared with me. So let me tell you her forecast. Then we die with our eyes open, if we are going to die, or know what death we baffle if we can. Sirens weaving a haunting song over the sea we are to shun or stay away from, she said, and their green shore all sweet with clover. Yet she urged that I alone should listen to their song. Therefore, you are to tie me up tight as a splint, erect along the mast, lashed to the mast. And if I shout and beg to be untied, take more turns of the rope to muffle me." I rather dwelt on this last part of the forecast, while our good ship made time, bound outward down the wind for the strange island of Sirens. Then all at once the wind fell, and a calm came over the sea as though some power lulled the swell. The crew were on their feet briskly to furl the sail and stow it then, so they take the sail down. Then, each in his place, they poised the smooth oared blades and sent the white foam scuttling by. So they're rowing. They're not letting the sail do the work. They put their sails away and they begin to row. I carved a massive cake of beeswax into bits and rolled them in my hands until they softened. No long task, for a burning heat came down from Helios, lord of high noon. Going forward, I carried wax along the line and laid it thick on their ears. So Odysseus puts wax in his men's ears so they won't be able to hear the sirens. They're basically old school earplugs. They tied me up, then plumb amidships, back to the mast, lashed to the mast, and took themselves again to rowing. Soon as we came smartly within hailing distance, the 2 sirens, noting our fast ship off their point, made ready, and they sang. The lovely voices and ardor pealing over the water made me crave to listen, and I tried to say, "Untie me," to this crew, jerking my brows, but they bent steady to their oars. Then Perimedes got to his feet, he and Eurylochus, and passed more line about to hold me still. So all rowed on until the sirens dropped under the sea rim and their singing dwindled away. My faithful company rested on their oars now, peeling off the wax that I had laid thick on their ears, then set me free. This is the wrong page. But scarcely had that island faded in blue air when I saw smoke and white water with sound of waves in tumult or commotion or uproar. A sound the men heard, and it terrified them. Oars flew from their hands, the blades went knocking wild alongside till the ship lost way, with no oar blades to drive her through the water. So the men become frightened at hearing this sound on the sea, and they stopped rowing and let go of their oars, and the oars fall to sea. Well, I walked up and down from bow to stern, trying to put heart into them, standing over every oarsman, saying gently, "Friends, have we never been in danger before this? More fearsome is it now than when the Cyclops penned us in his cave? What power he had! Did I not keep my nerve and use my wits to find a way out for us? Now I say, by hook or crook, this peril too shall be something we remember. Heads up, lads. We must obey the orders as I give them. Get the oar shafts in your hands and lie back hard on your benches. Hit these breaking seas. Zeus, help us pull away before we founder." So he's giving the men a pep talk, basically saying, you can do this. You've seen worse things. Let's band together and we can do this together. You at the tiller, listen and take in all that I say. The rudders are your duty. Keep her out of the combers or large waves and the smoke. Steer for that headland. Watch the drift, or we fetch it up and smother as you drowned us. That was all, and it brought them round to action. But as I sent them on toward Scylla, I told them nothing, as they could do nothing. They would have dropped their oars again in panic to roll for cover under the decking. Circe's bidding against arms had slipped my mind, so I tied my cuirass, armor for the breast and the back, and took up 2 heavy spears, then made my way along to the foredeck, thinking to see her first from there. So Circe said, don't bother having any weapons, it's not going to do any good. So this just shows you that Odysseus thinks he's so big and powerful that he can defeat a monster that's really not able to be defeated. The monster of the gray rock, harboring torment for my friends. I strained my eyes upon that cliffside veiled in cloud, but nowhere could I catch sight of her. And all this time in travail, mean hard work, tiring labor, sobbing, gaining on the current, we rowed into the strait. Scylla to port, and on our starboard beam Charybdis, dire gorge of the salt sea tide. By heaven, when she vomited, all the sea was like a cauldron seething over intense fire, when the mixture suddenly heaves and rises. So they see on their left side, they see the spewing of this whirlpool. The shot spume soared to the landside heights and fell like rain. But when she swallowed the seawater down, we saw the funnel of the maelstrom, heard the rock bellowing all around, and dark sand raged on the bottom far below. My men all blanched against the gloom. Our eyes were fixed upon the yawning mouth in fear of being devoured. So the men are watching the whirlpool, hoping that their boat isn't going to get sucked in. Then Scylla made her strike, whisking 6 of my best men from the ship. I happened to glance aft a ship and oarsmen and caught sight of their arms and legs dangling high overhead. Voices came down to me in anguish, calling my name for the last time. A man surf casting on a point of rock for bass or mackerel, whipping his long rod to drop the sinker and bait far out, will hook a fish and rip it from the surface to dangle, wriggling through the air. So these were borne aloft in spasms toward the cliff. He just compared the men being caught like a fisherman catches a fish and then wrings them out of the water. She ate them as they shrieked there in her den, and the dire grapple, terrible struggle, reaching still for me, and deathly pity ran through me at that sight. Far the worst I've ever suffered, questioning the passes of the strange sea. So the next question, number 10, asks you if you think this is the worst sight Odysseus has seen on his journey, and to explain if it is or isn't. We rode on. The rocks were now behind, Charybdis too, and Scylla dropped astern. Then we were coasting the noble island of the god, where graze those cattle with wide brows and bounteous flocks of Helios, lord of noon, who rides high heaven. From the back ship, far still at sea, I heard the lowing of the cattle, winding home, and sheep bleating, and heard too in my heart the words of blind Tiresias of Thebes and Circe of Aea. Both forbade me the island of the world's delight, the sun.